I recognized the power that I have in looking at myself and how I value my own creativity and, you know, the message that I have to share with the world. And I was just like, you know what, like, the people who are going to resonate with what I have to say and what I have to create will listen to that, and the people who don't, they won't. But I wouldn't want that insecurity to prevent me from doing what obviously feels good to me.
Hi, welcome to a new episode of Catching Up with That Jimee, where I interview my friends and take beautiful portraits of them. In this episode, I have my good friend TTMUUN with me, and she is a fabulous singer, songwriter, and just all around beautiful individual. And I'm so excited for today's interview. And without further ado, TTMUUN, why don't you tell us about yourself?
Okay, thank you for the beautiful introduction.
Of course.
So I'm a Mongolian artist based in LA, and I make music, I paint, I do graphic design. I like all things art. So I've been making music full time since 2020.
Wow, pretty recently.
Pretty recently,
yes.
Yeah.
And just recently, I attended your single release party.
Yeah.
You just released a really, really catchy single called Slide.
Yeah.
I highly recommend you guys to listen to it. I'm gonna put a little snippets here and there for you guys too. But it's just such, like, I'm obsessed, basically.
Thank you.
I was just telling you, like, the song is on my on repeat playlist on my Spotify. And I just love it, and it's just cute. And the cover art, you made it yourself,
Yeah.
which is also really cute.
Thank you.
And the release party also had a really good turnout, and it must feel amazing to be surrounded by your friends and loved ones, and just, you know, being in that great energy and just singing your own songs, and just, it must felt really good, huh?
Yeah, it was a lot of emotions. That was my first big event just by myself. I've been a part of shows before, but it was me and other artists and other designers, so it didn't feel as impactful as it was when I did my release party.
Yeah.
And I think making that transition of doing things purely just for my own music, it definitely elevated the way I view my career and my music, and yeah, it's been a beautiful experience.
Nice. And you sang, I think 5 of your songs?
Yes.
Yes, and you sang beautifully, of course.
Thank
And,
you.
and
I was really nervous in the beginning.
Yeah, and which, you know, leads me to the next question. You asked everybody to take a deep breaths right before you start. So is that something you normally do right before you perform? And is that something you also do just from a day-to-day basis? How does that help you, taking deep breaths?
Yeah, it's definitely very important, especially I think living in LA, it's very fast-paced, and prior to that, I lived in New York for a couple months, and that was also really fast-paced too.
Yeah.
And so when you're kind of in the middle of chaos and going really fast from one thing to another, I think I definitely forget to breathe deeply.
Yeah.
And so when I take a deep breath, like, you just kind of remind yourself like everything is fine, and you don't always have to be operating on such a hurried mentality.
Yeah.
But at the show, when I did it, it was just kind of like a instinct. It wasn't something that I planned, or it's not something that I do, but it just felt right in the moment, and everybody was super down to take deep breaths with me, and it meant a lot.
Yes.
And I think after we took that 3 deep breaths, the energy in the room was so much more calm. It also helped me calm my nerves down, so was, I think, a good thing to do.
Yes, I feel like that's a practice that honestly everybody should do from a day-to-day basis.
I agree.
Even hour-to-hour basis, you know? So,
Yeah.
Because breathing, in Hebrew, there's a word, I think it's Yahweh or something similar to that, but it means breathing, but then it also means God or the Holy Spirit, you know? And so it's like when you're taking a breath, it's just like you're breathing in the Spirit of God, you know? Because like we're given this life. Like without oxygen, we can't live, right?
Yeah,
and
well,
so
basically,
like we're literally breathing in this gift that was given to us, right? And so like taking deep breaths really just like grounds you in a way that and also reminds you that like you're this living thing on this earth, and like you know, just like it really helps you to be present, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm really happy that you asked everybody to do that on your show.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, I was taking an Uber recently, and me and my Uber driver were kind of having a similar conversation about breathing. And she's a former nurse, and now she does Uber and Lyft, I think, full time. And she was saying that when you don't breathe deep enough, your brain doesn't get enough oxygen. And so, you know, especially at the end of the day, when you're done with working or whatever you have to accomplish, it helps to unplug and get rid of any distraction and just be in complete silence for 20 minutes and just breathe very deeply. You can lie on your back, and after having that conversation, I did that for like 3 days in a row, and I was like, wow, this feels actually really good. Yes, and it's also the basis of meditation too, right? Like that meditation is basically paying attention to your breath, paying attention to the thoughts that are going on in your head or whatever, just being able to be in that seat of consciousness and just paying attention to all of these things, and breathing facilitates that whole process, right? And so yeah, so breathe, everyone. Yeah, amazing.
Why don't you take a breath right now, right?
Let's take one
a breath
with everyone.
right now together.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, go.
Yes.
Perfect.
So much
This
better.
is a great start to
I love that, yes.
the interview.
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah.
So have you always wanted to be a singer-songwriter?
I feel like that's a loaded question. Because I think growing up, I always knew that I was passionate about singing. But I think with any artist or anybody who is committing their time and, you know, their energy to creating, there's a certain level of confidence that you have to have in yourself, where you feel like what I have to say and what I have to create matters. So for me, making that commitment to pursue music and to really give it my all came later in my life, even though I knew and always had that clarity that music was really, really important to me, because I lacked that confidence. I always knew I could sing, and you know, I've always been actively partaking in anything like music related, but I started writing songs in 2019. So before that, the reason why I didn't really explore that was because I didn't really think that I could write a song. And I was looking at music as this special talent that only a few people had, and I didn't really believe that I had it. But the more I delve deep into like songwriting and creating in general, I'm realizing more that it's not about special talent. It's more so about if it's something that you're passionate about and if it's something that feels fulfilling when you do it. So now my perspective has shifted, and I understand that, you know, doing music feels right because it feels good and it feels right.
Yeah.
And so as long as it feels good, I'll continue doing it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So how did you build that confidence? Because, everybody wants confidence, and it's not something you just magically have, right?
Yeah.
And so how did you find the confidence in making your own music?
Yeah, wow, that's such a good question. I think because I didn't have it for a really long time, and I know what it's like to feel insecure, I think at some point I just reached this feeling where I was like, I don't want to feel bad about myself anymore, and I don't want to doubt myself anymore. And of course, I encounter doubtful thoughts and challenging moments throughout the day, or regularly, but I think I recognized the power that I have in looking at myself and how I value my own creativity and the message that I have to share with the world. And I was just like, you know what, the people who are going to resonate with what I have to say and what I have to create will listen to that.
Yes.
And the people who don't, they won't. But I wouldn't want that insecurity to prevent me from doing what obviously feels good to me. Yeah.
That's great, because I feel like when you have something to say and share, the right people will come to you. There are 7 or 8 billion, now it's 8 billion.
Now it's 8 billion.
Billions of us. And so there are people who share the same values, same mindset, and same heartbreaks as you have. And if you our purpose on this earth, honestly, I feel like it's just to share our stories and just raise up the collective consciousness and the collective vibrations, right? And so it's amazing that you with that confidence that you found, that you decided to just share with the world what you have, and it's very commendable.
Thank you. Thank you. I agree with that. I think the more I put myself in a vulnerable position to speak on the struggles that I had, or it doesn't always have to be a struggle, right? Even the good feelings that I had and the things that I'm grateful for, people will just be like, oh my God, I feel the exact same way. Or if I'm sharing about a heartbreak story, someone's like, oh my God, I'm literally going through that right now. And in turn made me feel less lonely in my experience. And I think that's the power of creativity and sharing yourself with the world, is you realize how similar we are. And especially when we're going through our tough moments, it can feel like we're the only ones struggling, or we feel alone in that position. But chances are there's so many people out there that's going through the same thing. So that's been the beautiful part of also creating as well.
You're never alone, honestly. So, sorry. I'm trying to find a transition to the next question.
Are we just gonna keep this in? I think it would be a nice organic thing to keep in the video of you just looking through your questions.
Right. I know. I maybe I should, huh?
Yeah, I think that would be nice.
Yeah, honestly, you're really never alone. Somebody somewhere, maybe next to you or 1,000 miles away from you, always, always are going through something similar that you're going through. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So which leads me to the next question. What are the aspirations behind your music? I know from your release party, you mentioned that some of the songs you wrote are about your exes, and and heartbreaks, right? And besides that, feel free to share if there's anything that inspired you to write your music.
Yeah, I definitely think that I view music as something where I feel safe enough to process and share what I'm going through. Because I know some artists, they take a situation, even though it's not their own experience, and they imagine it and they write a song about it, which I think is beautiful. I'll probably do that at some point. But so far, all the music that I've created has been my own experiences, and that's kind of my way of like bidding farewell to that situation and letting it go.
Okay.
And for my last release, which I had the release party for, called Slide, that song was about someone that I had a crazy crush on, and it didn't work out the way I had hoped. But I wrote that song when I was literally in the middle of like going crazy for this person. And I wrote that song 2 weeks after I met this guy. Fun fact. So, you know, clearly I wanted it to like be long-term or something more substantial. And it took me a couple months to release that song because I was emotionally also processing how things went down. And so when I released it, I felt super free from that situation because, you know, to me, when I write a song and I sit on it, it feels like it kind of keeps me tied to that situation or whatever I was feeling when I wrote the song, and when I release it, in a way I'm moving on. So yeah, for me, you know, it doesn't always have to be deep. I'm just a deep person, I guess. But for some of my new music that I'm writing is more fun, and I want to explore, you know, many different ways of approaching music and writing songs. But what I foresee in my music career is definitely touring is something that I'm really looking forward to, because I love performing. And I was telling my friend Tucker the other day, shout out Tucker, you're amazing. We were having a conversation. He's another artist as well. And I was telling him that, you know, I've been performing in front of people in my imagination since I was a young girl. So at this point, I've been doing it for so long that reality and my imagination are kind of like meshed, like merging together. So of course I get nervous, but when I'm in front of the stage, I feel like it just feels supernatural to me because I've been rehearsing. And I really, really want to share that intimate moment with more people from all over the world. And, you know,
you really better visualize.
Manifest.
And that manifest and just come.
So I'm very much looking forward to that. And
you know, when I was really young, I kind of like visualize from time to time too, performing in front of people. Because my dad is actually a singer.
Amazing.
Too.
Mine
and
too.
So you know, like growing up, probably we see them perform and we like it's ingrained in our brain, and we want to perform ourselves and stuff like that too. So, but you know, gradually I did other stuff, right? And so I'm glad that you're pursuing it, and just, you know, I'm just really happy that you're making it happen, you know.
Thank you so much.
Because it's really not easy. But you know, speaking of visualizations and what's going on in our head, I'm always curious because when I was a kid, you know, I play piano and stuff, and so and I practice it every day and whatever, and like from time to time, when my mind is idle, like it will like either I will hear pianos, you know, the things that I practice, or like I will hear notes and whatever, you know, I'll hear music in my head.
Wow.
Because you know how like our we hear voices in our head all the time, right? Just like talking voices.
Talking voices.
Like mostly our mom's voices, you know? Like
yeah.
We hear our mom saying, "Hey, don't do that, don't do
that."
Oh
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right?
Okay.
But I'm curious, as a musician, do you ever like hear just, random music in your head, and does some of your songwriting experience come from just random things that you hear in your head?
Wow, that's such an interesting question, because that's a very different perspective than how I approach music. Because the way that I write my music is I usually always start with a beat or some kind of melody or a sample or a loop.
Okay. Yeah.
And to me, it's like I'm interacting with that beat.
Okay.
So it's like this little dance, right? I like this beat, I feel connected to it, I feel like there's a certain message that wants to come through in that moment. And I will tailor the sound so that it engages well with the beat. And so I always follow my instinct. It's never, I mean, sometimes I'll, wake up from a dream and I'm like, I have a random melody stuck in my head from that dream, and I would do a voice memo, and oh my God, I have so many voice memos. Like, it's probably a couple hundred.
Oh, wow.
So if you scroll through my audio recordings, it's overwhelmingly a lot, and I actually never reopen them because I'm just... Yeah, because it's so many. And some of them are just like me, like messing around with my friends and stuff, and just like laughing. But yeah, it usually, for the most part, starts with a beat.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're building a momentum from that beat.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, I can see how that works. Because I feel like if you do have something in your head, just out of nowhere, it's kind of like hard to work with that, because it's like, where do I go from that,
Yes.
But instead, if you have something to base off of, like, it's easier to build momentum, right?
Exactly.
So, yeah.
See, he gets
it's a good note, you guys. If you want to write music, take notes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I was curious. So, so your whole songwriting process, like, you mentioned beats. So, do you have like an instrument to lay down those beats and tracks, and then you? Like, how do you do that? Like, do you use, what kind of softwares do you, this is kind of like a really amateur question, but like,
no.
Because I also remember one of your friends at the release party, you said he sent you this beat or track, and then you wrote Slide off of it, right?
Yeah.
So I'm really curious, how does the whole process work?
Yeah, thank you for that question. For Slide, I think you're mixing it with someone else. So my friend Haiku, he's a producer, and he sent me a beat, which I wrote a different song, but I performed it at the release party. It's called Hindsight. It's also unreleased, so
I'm excited. Yeah, I really liked it.
Thank you.
Yes.
But for Slide, I'm very hands-on when it comes to production. I usually sit down with a producer, or sometimes I even do like Zoom sessions where, if they're in a different state or city, I can work that way as well. Am I saying a lot? Okay, whatever.
Wait, no.
Okay.
No.
So I usually start off with a melody or a guitar sample that I really like, and then I add the drums, I add the snares, and build
like
the
on a
beat.
computer?
Yeah.
Okay.
So the producers that I work with, they use their own softwares, but I personally use Logic to record my vocals.
Okay.
So I have my own little like studio setup at home, and all my vocals except my song Reservations has been recorded in my place so far.
Wow. Yeah, that's something I was always curious ever since I participated in your Santa Fe music video, because that song was like legit, like really good song, right? So I was like, did she record it at a like professional studio? Like, how did everything work? So that's really mind blowing to me that you were able to do all these things, a lot of these things yourself, right?
Yeah.
So,
thank you so much.
Yeah.
When you're starting out, you just have to be resourceful.
Yeah.
I'm very lucky to work with really, really amazing engineers who can take my vocal files and turn it into a really nice, clean sound and create such nice music because the engineer is basically the one that, if you look at music as cooking, right? You give them all the ingredients, everything's ready, and then they basically put it all together and turn it into a meal. So engineers producers and engineers are definitely a very, very important part of the music process. But engineer, I feel like, is very specific to your sound. It has to be someone that understands your vision and what you're trying to achieve, because it can go infinite routes from there.
Wow. Yeah, comparing it to a meal, that's a great way to explain it to dummies like me. but I really like that. But I'm also curious, how did you like meet all these people who got to, who you got to work with? Because it's also really hard to meet people in the industry that you want to work with,
Yeah,
so how did that happen?
Absolutely. That's such a great question.
Thanks.
I definitely think that it's been trial and error. Because earlier in 2020, for example, I was working with a couple people and we weren't on the same page as far as what we wanted to achieve in our sound. So it was trial and error, and I try not to get those experiences affect the way I view music, and also just get me jaded. So, because there has definitely been experiences where I'm just like, wow, like this was quite unpleasant. But I was very lucky to have great artist friends who connected me with their collaborators and the producers that they work with. And once you start to create your community of people, they introduce you to their friends and you introduce them to your friends. And as long as there is that mutual respect and faith in each other, I think that's what makes it easier. But it's probably something that people don't talk about enough in the music industry or any sort of creative field. Is meeting the right people is definitely, I would say, like half of the work, right? Because you need people. You can't do everything on your own. As much as you can be resourceful and wear different hats, you need those people who are good at their craft and they're continuously working on being better. Yeah, it's definitely an investment, but it's a form of abundance as well.
That's also where the confidence comes in too. Like if you had to have confidence and you have to believe in yourself, and in order to get what you want, like you have to, go through trial and error, and then after that what works and what don't, and then you have to have confidence in order to present yourself to these people that you want to work with, and then once you get that synergy going, you can create amazing work. And that's honestly something that I feel like I need to work on myself too, even though I feel like I have built a lot of self-confidence in the last year or two. One of my ongoing New Year resolution, I guess, but going into 2023, I definitely wanted to make it one of my priorities is to make more friends, build a network, build my community. Because I tend to do things all by myself and just and I am kind of a loner sometimes,
I feel that.
I enjoy it weirdly, but then at the same time, because I enjoy it, it means that it's my comfort zone, and I feel like in order to grow, you have to force yourself outside of your comfort zone. And for me, that means, building my network, meeting friends, and that requires me to fully believe in myself and just, present myself in a very confident way so that I attract the right people. And just, have an abundance of people in my life, because I feel like I have abundance in some other areas of my life,
Yeah.
you know, but like I feel like social stuff, you know, I need to work on.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy that you have found these people, which is really not easy, you know. And so it just sounds like things are going in your favor.
Thank you,
you know
so
what
much.
I mean?
Yeah.
So
I definitely think that collaborating is a really important skill,
yeah,
and it's something that I'm working on as well.
yeah,
But once you have that confidence in the other person, and you know that they're brilliant at what they do, and that person believes in you, that you're good at what you do,
yeah,
then you're not tempted to be a part of every step.
yeah.
Because I feel like when you're used to doing everything on your own, it can be scary to delegate something to someone else, because you're just like, is that person going to execute it as good as I envision myself doing it, right? And the prime example of that for me was my Santa Fe music video. And to those who don't know, I released my first music video in July this year.
Yes.
And so Jimee
Which I was part of it. It's
Yeah.
it's an awesome video. You have to check it out.
Yeah.
Everything from the cinematography and the location and the styling, the set design and the styles, makeup and hair was great.
Amazing.
So
Yeah.
you have to check it out.
Thank you. Yeah, so it was for my song Santa Fe, and I felt really lucky that I had a very, very strong team. And I'm super grateful to my friend Mimi for bringing a huge part of the team on board. And I brought in my friend Ben and Jasmine, who styled me. She did such a great job.
Yes.
And Sarok, who did my makeup, Temka, who did camera work, and Bimi, who produced, and you know, everyone who was involved, the art department, colorist, editor. I can't leave people out. I wouldn't want anybody to feel left out, but what I'm trying to say is everyone who was involved in that process was truly incredible. And it was so evident from the beginning of the planning to doing group calls, and we did such good planning, and Nimi did such a good job making sure that everyone was on the same page.
Yeah.
The communication was A1.
Yes.
And I felt really calm going into the shoot.
Yeah.
It was a pretty long process, but in every step of the way, I always felt confident that it was going to turn out the way that we had all, you know, envisioned it.
Yeah.
And it also helped that we had a mutual vision, so that, you know, end result was
Amazing.
truly incredible.
Yes,
And
yes.
I'm very, very grateful for that.
Nice, yes. And you know, you mentioned too, having confidence in others, that, you know, they can do
Such an important
a
skill.
great job, which means you're letting go of your own control, you know, and
Yes.
that's really hard too. So, so I want to talk about letting go, because you also mentioned in your songwriting experience, you let go after you release the song.
Yes.
Which was amazing to hear, because, you know, in my mind, I always think, okay, if they keep singing about their exes and heartbreaks, like, are they really letting go? Because it's like they're repeating it with words, right?
Right.
But sounds like, you know, it is actually a form of letting go. So, so that's something new to me. Do you mind explain further?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that words definitely do matter. And I remember having a conversation about how words are super powerful, and the more you repeat it, it's manifesting what you're saying in that song or in that poem or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
So I'm always very aware of how I frame that situation.
Yeah.
Of course, you know, in that raw moment where you have something to say, it's important to let it out. But at the same time, I try not to be too hateful, or, you know, I try not to use very harsh kind of perspective, because then it's kind of like forever. It's going to be out forever.
Right.
So,
and that says something about you too, right?
Yeah. And even for my song Cherry Blossom, it's the second song that I released. It's kind of about leaving a toxic relationship, you know. It doesn't even have to be toxic, but when you know that a person is not good for you, even though you love them, right? It's best for you to leave and make that decision for yourself, for your greater good. So when I was writing that song, I wanted to make it as empowering as possible, and I try not to be in the victim seat when I'm talking about a heartbreak, or you know. And again, going back to like, it's okay to like let your raw emotions out. I'm by no means judging any sort of song or perspective, but in my personal songwriting, I try not to be too victim in the situation, but more so processing it in a way that empowers me. So it's something really important to keep in mind.
Nice. I really like that. Cause if you're not careful, you know, being in the victim seats can make you go further.
Yeah,
you know,
and now you're projecting, now you're blaming the other person, now you're angry, and I think being in a victim position makes it that much harder to move on and process it in a way that's good for you.
Yeah, and there's like a correlation between being a victim and letting go, because I feel like once you let go, you kind of like are not the victim anymore, you know?
Yeah.
Right? So
I agree. I agree. I think that, you know, when I process any sort of unpleasant experience, right, something that I felt conflicting emotions about, when I look back on it, I always try my best to take away the good from it, which I think is super important. And oddly enough, my name means clear sky, because my real name in Mongolian is TTMUUN, and so it translates to clear sky. And the way that I look at it is, is when it rains or if it's gloomy and then it all of a sudden it's like bright sky. That's the way I try to look at difficult experiences in my life, right? You're just like, okay, well, whatever's happened has happened in the past. So how can I frame my perspective so that when I think about a painful experience, I can remember that the good that it brought too. And I think that's always a life's challenge, right? Because it takes time and effort and intention to do that.
I love that.
Thank you.
And also, earlier you mentioned, you know, like words are powerful, and you know, we all, you know, now that like new age spirituality is, you know, everywhere. You hear daily affirmations, mantras, incantations, prayers, all of these things. So I have like a couple of affirmations that I do like to repeat myself to. I was wondering if you have any, and if you do, what are they? If you don't mind sharing.
I don't necessarily have a mantra that I repeat to myself every day, but the way that I look at it is, what affirmation is doing is basically creating a pattern of thought and instilling it in your head, right? And I think a lot of the times our negative beliefs about ourselves, they're so, they come so naturally to us that we're not even aware of it. So I think with music and everything I'm doing as far as art, it really challenges my confidence in myself and the way that I view myself, right? Because if I don't feel confident in my own self, when I put out music, I'm not gonna feel like people are gonna care because I'm self-conscious, right? So I'm always having to unlearn those negative beliefs, those limiting beliefs about myself. And also too, like I try not to make my music about me. Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but if I'm making music, if people like it, then they like it, and if they
Yeah.
don't, they don't.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
when you're a creator, it's really hard to separate how your art is being perceived from your self-worth. Right? So if you make a song, and then if I make a song and everyone's like, oh my God, it's so bad, I can't let that affect the way I view
Right.
my songwriting skills. Like
Yeah.
I can take the constructive feedback from it,
Yeah.
but I've definitely been through experiences where I let certain things regarding my music affect my self-esteem. For example, working with other people, right? I was supposed to have a feature on one of the songs I released, and the artist that was supposed to be on it didn't turn in their verse. So I ended up doing it by myself, and that really affected my self-esteem, because now I'm like, oh, did this person not send me the verse back because they don't believe in me, they don't believe in the song? Especially when you put that person on such a pedestal, which I did. And it, you know, it put me in a really insecure position for like months, and I didn't release the song, and I eventually had to realize, like, you know, it's sometimes people are going through their own things.
Yeah,
Sometimes other artists are working on their own projects, their own music, and just because a person didn't turn in their verse doesn't mean that I'm shitty. Like, I don't have to make it about me, right? So I think that's a challenge that probably a lot of people go through. And I remember watching SZA's interview, because, you know, she recently released her album, and she was saying, like, people didn't turn in their verses and whatnot. And I was like, wow, like, it's SZA, and people still didn't turn in the verse. So it can happen to anybody, and yeah, so it's fine, it's part of the process.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and what I got out from that is sometimes you just, you know, like, you can't take things personally, right?
Yeah, such a skill.
And you can't make assumptions too, you know. And
Yeah.
you can't let you can't let other people's actions dictate your own worth, right? And so
Yeah.
again, that's where the
Such a
self-confidence
practice.
comes in. So yeah, everything is honestly connected. Self-worth, confidence, letting go of
Yeah.
control, and, you know, faith in yourself, faith in others. They're all connected, to be honest.
I agree.
So yeah. So I was also wondering, who are your, speaking of SZA,
Yeah.
who are your top 3 or top 5 influences
In music?
in music? Yeah.
Oh, that's such a spicy question, because you know, when Spotify does the 2020, like whatever
Wrapped,
year,
yeah,
Wrapped.
yeah.
So I was quite shocked to see mine, because I love listening to Mariah the Scientist. I'm not sure if you...
No, I don't know.
Okay, so
Yeah.
she's a artist from Atlanta, and she makes R&B music, and she's super dope.
Okay,
And her music really resonates with me.
I see. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, check her out. Especially this year, I listened to her music a lot. So when I looked at my Spotify Wrapped, it said that I was in the top 0.05% of the 0.05% of her listeners.
Top listeners, yeah.
And I was just like, oh my God, like that is insane.
Yeah.
I knew I listened to her a lot, but I didn't know it was to that extent. And yeah, so, you know, definitely Mariah the Scientist. I feel like she inspires me with her songwriting, and her lyrics to me are very powerful and very strong. It paints a very clear picture of what she's experiencing, and I think she gets very vulnerable with it too, which I appreciate.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, I listened to Sabrina Claudio for you know, a few years, and I was one of her few like earlier listeners when she was just on YouTube, and she used to make covers, and yeah, she's someone that I also really enjoy.
I know her from Beyonce. because she
she-
co-wrote or co-produced Plastic Off the Sofa.
Oh my God, that song is such a good song.
Yes.
It's one of my favorites from her
That one
album.
was my top 2 song from my Spotify Wrapped.
Such a good song. I
Such
love
a
that
good song.
song.
Yes.
Yeah. But generally, women inspire me a lot, like Janae Aiko, you know, Erykah Badu.
Okay.
I think Erykah Badu, she's also a Pisces. I'm a Pisces. So.
Yes, we haven't even talked about astrology yet.
Oh my God, that's a whole other thing.
Right?
Yeah, so women inspire me a lot.
Okay.
And also Division is another group that I listen to a lot.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm leaving out a bunch of people, but you know, in short,
Okay,
women.
got it. Intro. Okay, also more R&B, right? Because that's
More
kind of
R&B.
your style too, like R&B.
Yeah,
Right, yeah.
but I am definitely in a headspace where I don't want to limit my sound, and I've got some fun stuff in the works. So
Nice.
definitely exploring outside the realm of R&B, because that's also an area that I'm comfortable with. So I want to test the waters
Yes.
and
Yeah.
try different sounds that are new to me.
Nice. I'm excited. Looking forward to hearing the new sounds. And speaking of which, will we be expecting a new release from you, or an EP or an album, or?
Yeah. Definitely new music next year.
Nice.
I'm not sure about the EP, but I have some songs that are written already, which you've heard before at the release party. Yeah, you should have been there at the release party.
Yes.
Oh my God, I
Oops.
almost fell. So those songs are already written
Nice.
and in the process of getting ready for a release. So
What about a music video?
music video, I definitely want to work on a music video. So
Okay.
calling
Nice.
everyone who wants to work with me.
Yes.
Reach
Manifest.
out,
Yes.
contact me, I'm open.
Please.
My doors are open, DMs are
Yes.
open.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely
Okay.
work on a couple of music videos.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for being here today, and I feel like I learned so much about you as a person and your songwriting experience, and just, you know, thanks for also being vulnerable and just sharing, you know, your heart, like how the heartbreaks have helped you.
Yeah.
And you know how, you know, like we talked about self-confidence, and you know, like all of these things are just really have been really important topics in my life this year. And so I'm really happy that someone like you are, you know, we share the same, like we're on this same perspective. So I'm really grateful that you came here to share with
Thank
us
you.
all of these amazing experiences and answers. I'm sorry, I'm like
Thank you.
so awkward right now. So.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the questions that you were asking, it made perfect sense to me. And I think you understood my perspective because we are kind of similar in our approach to our work, even though our line of works are slightly different, right?
Yeah.
But like collaborating, for example, and working alone and all those things is just proof that we are very, very similar.
Yes.
So thank you for having me, and it was a really great experience. I hope, you know, for the viewers, it gives people an insight about me as an artist, but also as Jimee. He's a great interviewer. And
Thank you.
Yeah, I hope everyone can take away at least one thing that's positive.
Yes, for sure.
them.
I think there's so many things that are really helpful, you know. So I really hope that you find that it resonates with you, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you again for watching, and thank you for being here, and we will go ahead and do our photo shoots.
Bye.
Bye. And like, comment, and subscribe.
Oh yeah.
Bye.
Share with all your friends, all your family, everyone you know.
And also, please you can stream TMUUN's music everywhere. So do yourself a favor, check out her socials, check out her music videos, check out her music, and you will not be disappointed.
Thank you.
All right, bye.